there's a way in the traditional religions, they believe, there's a way for the human beings in this world to influence the spiritual world as well. They were able to do different sorts of rituals in order to bring about change in this world. When the rituals are done, the hearts of the spirits change in such a way that they are able to bring blessings or curses to the people of this earth. So when things started to go poorly, when bad things started to happen, they needed to ensure that things would go well. And so they would do these rituals in order to make sure that the spirits were happy and the spirits were content. In Egypt, one of the ways that this happened was whenever someone died, they had to make sure that things were going to go well for the departed ancestor. And so this took place by way of a this-worldly ritual. The Egyptians believed that there were two parts of the soul. One is called Ba, and it was attached to the body of the person who had died. And in order for the spirit to be properly, that part of the soul to be properly released from the body, they had to do certain rituals. But they also had to continue to maintain that physical body so that their spirit would have a place to come back and to sleep at night. So half of the Egyptian soul, they believed, was this thing that was attached to the body. And then there was another half of the soul that was called Ka. That was the life force. And it needed regular offerings of food and drink in order to continue to live. And so the Egyptians had very important things that they would do upon death. They had to take care of the body. They had to make sure that the soul would be properly released from the body by doing these rituals. And they also had to feed the spirit continually in order for that spirit to be happy and to have life. The Canaanites also believed that they were able to do rituals in this world that were able to affect the things in another world. When something bad would happen, they would do a ritual, and when they wanted something good, they would do another ritual. One of the rituals that they did involved fertility. Baal was the male god, and Astarte was the female god, and Astarte specifically was the god of fertility. So when they needed fertility in this world, they believed that the way to get that was to have fertility in the other world. And so they had temple prostitutes, and if someone needed some sort of fertility in this world, he would go and he would see the temple prostitute, and that would encourage Baal and Astarte to come together, and that would ensure fertility in this world. So if you were worried about your crops, whether or not your crops would succeed, then you would go and see the temple prostitute. If you had trouble conceiving a child, then you would go and you would have a temple prostitute. This is the way that these religions said that you should live life. And these are the way in which these religions said that you could gain blessings from the spiritual world. And then if there was a really, really big need in Cana, it can be met in a way that is fairly horrifying to all of us. Deuteronomy 18:21 talks about the offering of children as child sacrifices to the god Moloch. If you had something that you really needed, something that was really big, you needed to win in war or something like that, then the way to do that was to do something in this world that brought about a change in the other world so that you could have blessings in this world. And so they believed that the perfect way to do that would be to sacrifice their own children to the god Moloch. There's something that is unifying about these different traditional religions and all of these different practices. Human beings within the traditional religions must be constantly concerned about having done enough in order to make sure that the spirit world is going to help them. And so there's always a little bit of a concern that's going on in the back of your mind if you're in a traditional religion. You're saying something like, have I done enough? And if I make some sort of a mistake when I'm doing the ritual, what's going to happen to me? because they feared that if something was not done right, or if something was not done enough, then there is a possibility that some sort of calamity would come into their life, some sort of an accident would happen, some sort of a sickness would strike them. When you think about these traditional religions, these religions that would have tempted the people of Israel, you have to understand that these are religions that brought bondage. These are religions that brought slavery. They didn't really answer the questions in life as fully as they should. Calamity would still strike, and they wouldn't understand exactly why it had happened. And no matter how many rituals they did, no matter how much they sacrificed, no matter how many things they did to appease the spirit world, they wouldn't have the real happiness that can only be given through a relationship with the one true God. They wouldn't have happiness in this life, and they wouldn't have assurance of happiness in the life to come. When God brought Israel out of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, He was bringing them away from these influences of these other religions so that they would not be in bondage to these religions at all. He was giving them real freedom, and freedom that they could not get from these rituals. Here is the message for you today concerning the traditional religions. This is a message that is given to you by God in the first commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. You have been given freedom from the traditional religions. There are differences and there are similarities between the Egyptian and Canaanite traditional religions and the Okinawan traditional religions. Here are some of the similarities. Within the Okinawan traditional religion, the things that are done in this world affect the other world. And the things that are done in the other world affect the things that are going on in this world. Here in the Okinawan traditional religion, people do things in order to make sure that their ancestors are going to be okay, and in order to make sure that they're going to have good fortune in this life. Some of the things you do is that you offer food to the ancestors to make sure that they have what they need. You make sure that their graves have been properly tended. And then when you have done that, which you should do, you're able to pray to the ancestors in order to ensure that you would have prosperity and have happiness. But no matter how many rituals you do, and no matter how faithfully you follow after the Okinawan traditional religion, you're not going to have real happiness. You're not going to have the things that only God can provide. But God has set you free from all of these things. He gives you the things that no ritual is going to be able to give you. You have blessings that are not dependent on your rituals or on your performance, but only upon the God who gives blessings. Here's an example. The Okinawan traditional religion, and other traditional religions for that matter, often have some sort of ritual that's associated with death that is going to allow the soul to pass safely from this world into the other world. It's the same sort of thing that the Egyptian traditional religion has. Here in Okinawa, we have certain things that we would do. We would burn a candle at night when after someone dies, and you do that for a certain number of days after the person dies, so that the spirit would be able to see the light, and so they wouldn't be able to wander off. And then also, after someone dies, you light incense, and that incense is said to be eaten by the spirit who is still there in the room for a certain amount of time, and the spirit is able to have the sustenance that it needs from the burning of the incense. Now, let's compare all of this to Christianity. In Christianity, when someone dies, the soul departs the body, and God takes care of everything. There's nothing you have to do. There's nothing that you have to do whatsoever in Christianity to make sure that your ancestor is going to pass safely from this world into the next one. God is the one who does everything. We as Christians